What's up, coaches? You're listening to the United Basketball Plus Coaching and Leadership Podcast. I'm joined today with fellow IHSA girls basketball coach, Ryan Davis. Coach, glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you've been coaching at Roanoke-Benson the past 2 seasons, but kind of bring me up to speed on your career prior to Roanoke, education, coaching experiences, other experiences, whatever made you the person that you are, the coach that you are today.
Okay. Just to start with my education, graduated from Eureka High School in '99, went to Illinois State University and graduated in 2005 with my teaching degree, and then thought I'd never go back to school, but I ended up finding a master's master's degree at Greenville University, master's in education with a focus on coaching. So my master's is in coaching, and I'm finishing up this week with my driver's ed certificate. So staying busy. As far as coaching experience, 21 years I've been doing this. I've coached everything: baseball, turned to softball, boys and girls basketball, track and field, all those different things. And just because I'm not busy enough, I also have owned my own mobile DJ business for the last 10 years. So
you got a lot of stuff going on there, Coach. I mean, I find myself, and I'm sure a lot of coaches would say the same thing. You can never slow down. You know, your mind's always going. It's got to be go, go, go. And I don't know if it's the way that people who get into coaching are wired, which is a good question. I know we didn't talk about earlier, but what drew you into coaching? Is it something you knew you wanted to do? Friends that kind of was like, hey, come on board with me? What was your driving force towards that?
It was my senior year, and I was in PE, and my coach at the time, Brett Charlton, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just sat down and had a good conversation with him because I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And he talked to me about, physical education, and, we had a real good talk, and that's what I went for. Hall of Fame cross country track coach, Brett Charlton.
Well, and we're separated by 15, 20 miles. This little pocket in this Peoria area is just some good basketball, some good athletics nonetheless. So and a lot of great coaches. You went to Eureka, which again, in that Peoria area, just so many great coaches, great mentors, and a great profession to get into in this area. Now, you've been doing it for 21 years. Some articles came out here within the last week. Kim Barth from Washington retired. Debbie Kaufman from
CC
Central Catholic, he retired. 30-year coaching veteran. So once you cross that 20-year threshold, that's an impressive feat. In those 21 years, what's been your favorite part? You didn't know what you were going to do getting into it. Now you've been in it 21 years. What is your favorite part?
Well, I can say early on in my career, my favorite part, shouldn't have been my favorite part. It was winning. And as I've matured and grown up and grown in my coaching, hands down, it's the relationships that I get the opportunity to build with my players. And I don't want it to just be, 4 years of basketball. I want you to know that I'm someone you can count on for the rest of your life if you ever need anything. It's kind of that family mentality, but that is hands down my favorite part, is just those relationships.
Again, I think every coach would agree with you there. So the main topic tonight is turning a program around in a year. You've been at Roanoke for 2 years. Dive a little bit deeper into your coaching experience prior to taking over to Roanoke. And you might touch on this, but what drew you to that position at Roanoke specifically?
So I started off right out of student teaching. I was offered a job. It wasn't for PE. It was called study skills, and I was helping kids that they weren't sure were going to graduate. And so during that time, I coached 7th grade girls basketball. And then the following year, I got asked to join the boys staff and coached under Mitch Holmgren. I was a freshman coach and varsity assistant for a year. Then I got my PE job opportunity over in Washington, Illinois at Washington Central Grade School, where I coached for 3 years. And then after that, I got the job at Germantown Hills, but they didn't have a basketball opening for the next 2 years. And I knew I wanted to coach. So I was on the Eureka High School girls staff for 2 years, actually with Kim Barth, which was a great 2 years with her. And then from there, 13 years at Germantown Hills. Out of those 13, 4 also did Metamora High School. And then last 2 years at Roanoke. And what drew me to Roanoke, I grew up in Goodfield, such a small town. The community is amazing. So I've known like these small towns. And when I saw that job open, I decided to throw my name in the hat, even though I didn't work in the district or anything like that. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be offered the job. And 2 years later, I'm still there loving it.
Fantastic. I just think it's neat how, the connections, the networks that you make, this thing leads to this, and the decision that you make here leads you to this decision there. Had you never had that conversation with your high school PE teacher, you wouldn't be sitting where you're at today. So
Absolutely.
And the people that you meet along the way as well, just a fantastic thing. So now I want to turn and really start talking about the things that you did that could help other coaches turn a program around in a year. The biggest thing I want to touch on here first is that and it could just be our pocket of the world, but it really seems that there's rapid declining in participation in athletics, more specifically girls athletics, especially basketball. There's been reports, there's been numbers. We'll gloss over that because it is just true. There's been rapid decline. And so what are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts on how we can fix this?
Yeah. So when I took over at Roanoke, I went in and met with the girls, and for our first practice, I had 9 girls in the program, and we went through all last year playing a JV schedule and a varsity schedule with 9 girls. It wasn't ideal, obviously. It really tough to scrimmage, but I think it was that first year, again, going back to the relationships, kind of they don't know you care or they don't care how much you know until they know that you care. And what I did was, just through the success we had and the relationships built, those girls went and talked to their friends. I was going into workouts with volleyball and talking to volleyball players, just trying to get athletes to give me a shot. So yeah, after walking in with 9 players, the second year we were up to 20 girls in just 1 year. So blessed to have my team going out and recruiting girls. And then I guess it also helped. We co-opted with Low Point Washburn this year, and they gave us 4 girls. Still, going from 9 to 16 is pretty incredible.
I would say so. I mean, what I wrote down was that your program had solid numbers this year. And even with the co-op with Low Point, that probably puts your total enrollment somewhere in the low 200s, mid 200s, which would be one of the smallest classifications, 1A here in Illinois. I mean, that's 20 girls, and you talk to some 3A, 4A, they don't even have 20 in their program. So backtracking a little bit, you started out, you had 9, and the hill you were going to die on was, we're going to play the full schedule, JV and varsity. Prior to you taking over, was it the case that there was 10 or less players on the team?
I think it was around that number, but yeah, I had to talk my girls into staying, because when I got there, I just was asking a bunch of questions to the team, like, where does basketball rate as far as sports go here at Roanoke? And they're like, dead last. I mean, it was below swimming and track and cross country and golf and softball and everything. But now I would say we've probably taken over as the top sport to join. We've got solid numbers coming again next year.
You're going in, you're recruiting. You can take an athlete, or you can take any player, as long as they give you the time and the effort to really work at it. You can make them just a solidly skilled player. And it really works if they're athletic in general. What kind of things are you pitching to players who are on the fence? Like, hey, come out for basketball, this, that, or the other thing. What would be your pitch?
I just was transparent. I was, explained to them that maybe you haven't played basketball, but I know that you're an athlete. Give me a year. And if you haven't changed your mind, you can go ahead and move on. But give me 1 year. I guarantee you will enjoy it, and you won't regret that you did it. And so far, I haven't lied. So
I totally agree. I wish I had video. If there was a camera that took the entire gym of our first practice this past season, or our first game even, and then, of the last game, just in general, okay, here's where you were and look where you're at now.
Yes.
And a lot of times the memories and the reason that they enjoy being a part of the team is nothing that's basketball related. I was just talking to my players the other day, and of the 10 things we probably talked about, 9 of them were not basketball related. The memories that they created from last season.
Yep.
And that, I think that's a recruitment in itself. So getting into more of the nitty gritty now, some of the X's and O's of transforming a program in a year. When you took over in 2024, Roanoke was coming off an 8-23 season and was 42-52 in the 3 years prior to you coming in. Since you took over 2 years ago, the team has gone 51-16 with 2 regional championships to their credit. And there's many other things I could have listed in there, but in general, you went from 42-52 in 3 years, no regionals, to 51-16 with 2 regionals in 2 years.
Yeah.
So what would you do there?
So not working at the school made things a lot more difficult. The girls didn't know me at all. I had to sell myself. I had to sell my vision, the culture we were going to have. I was going to their cross country meets and their volleyball games and softball games and things like that, just to show them that I'm here not just for basketball, but for you, as a whole person. So making yourself visible, that was definitely a big priority in year number 1. And then just building that culture, which was severely damaged when I came in. So when we started preparing for Summer League over in El Paso, I had drawn up something and asked them to run it or whatever. And they look at me and go, "Coach, we've never run plays before." And it took me back being juniors and seniors in high school, and you've never run plays. And I asked them, how about a defense? We were just supposed to stay in front of our girl. So that showed me the challenge that I was going to have. But, we got into that summer league, had some success, but I could clearly see that they had followed the game plan of get the ball to our best player, Bree Harms, and get out of her way, because they did not want to shoot. They didn't want to dribble. They just wanted to force the ball to Brianna. And with the culture we set, I was very transparent, and I wanted to let them know, like, this is what the team needs from you. This is what we need. And I wanted to be transparent with their role. Right now, this is where I see you. This is your starting point. I want you to prove me wrong and change that role, in a positive way. So just challenging them, as we started to win games, that was another thing. They didn't know how to celebrate. They didn't know how to enjoy wins. It was so somber after we would get a win, because they said, "Coach, it's because we haven't done it a lot," which was, sad to hear them. And that was just their reasoning. But yeah, it was just kind of getting that base down, lots of shooting form, teaching them how to play a team defense. So that was the biggest challenge in year 1.
And so you mentioned, I wasn't going to bring it up, but you did have a really good all-state player who will graduate in May. But that first year with 9 players, you had her and 1 or 2 other good players, but 1, 2, 3 players, that doesn't make the team.
Yes.
Right? You need all 9 to pitch in some capacity, whether that's valuable minutes in the game or in practice. So, to get a record of 51-16, you have to average about 26 wins a year. So in your first year, you basically tripled their wins from the year prior. Did you expect a turnaround like that? Is that something that you were like, wow, yeah, or is that something that you were like, wow, that's impressive? Credit to the girls there.
Yes, I'm going to give 100% of the credit to the girls on that. When I got offered the job, I was so excited. I went back and I watched every single game that the team played the year before, so I could get to learn like players' names and their numbers and just kind of get an idea. And so I knew there was some talent and I knew there was some athleticism. They just needed to be motivated and needed to be coached. And with, again, the change in culture, it was a team over everything was our vibe. And our motto was the change starts with us. Last year, we had on the back of our shooting shirts, we were going to start something and set the base. And we're going to start building something special. And they bought into my vision. They bought into my challenges. And again, like I said, I'm going to give all the credit to the girls. They played phenomenal.
They really bought what you were selling there and have turned the program around. You're moving in the right track. You've got, although Bree's graduating, you've got a good crew returning. Obviously, you said you're looking at 20 or so players returning next year. So beyond that, if you're going to have any longevity, you have to be building towards the future. How are you building your program for future success? That's including your junior high and maybe even a youth program.
Yeah, so we run a summer camp every year where we have the young kids in the community come, and then we have the high school girls practicing and coaching them and stuff like that. So that's great for our players to kind of get to know those younger kids for a week. And again, it's being visible. I reached out to the RBRA, the Roanoke-Benson Rec Association, and said I would love to meet with the coaches, kind of explain like this is what we're working towards, and these are the things like I would love to see them be able to do, at this age type thing. And then, junior high, I was helping for the first couple weeks of their season, being at every practice, just because it was new. And I was getting to know my assistant coach, who was also the 7th grade basketball coach, which was great because he was learning and he was then implementing it to his team. And then when he came back from junior high season, he knew where we were at and what we were trying to do. But we would attend the junior high games, sometimes as a full team, just, after a Saturday practice, and we knew they had a game. I'm like, let's head over, watch the game as a team, just to show like camaraderie and getting the girls excited. So yeah, it's just being visible in the community with the team. And like I said earlier, with recruiting, when they bought in and they're sharing about how much fun they're having and the success and what it takes to be a Roanoke-Benson Rocket, that's what sells the program. It's not me, it's them.
100%. A quote that I've been seeing a lot is that a coach-led program is a good program. A coach-player-led program is a better program, but a completely player-led program is a great program.
I agree 100%.
And we're not trying to take ourselves out of a job, but it is nice just to sit back and let them, the players, do the talking, do some coaching, and then really lead that thing. So now, just in general, I'm sure that your practice plans the second year looked a lot different than they did in the first year. And I'm sure moving into year 3, they'll probably change again just on how you structure a practice. But how are you organizing your practices in season? How are you scheduling in some non-basketball activities, or celebrating players in general?
Yeah, so in the past, I've done a couple theme days a week. I always started off with like a quote of the day, but I'm going to there's theme for all 6 days that we're able to practice. So like Monday is going to be Motivational Monday. I've always done a quote of the day, and then I kind of explain it, and I ask them to give me their thoughts on how it applies to basketball and life. But now I'm going to have them bring in the quote, and they're going to lead this, talk and discussion on the quote. And so that's Motivational Monday. Tribute Tuesday, I took this idea from Josh Williams at Clinton. You try to get as many touches as you can. You probably heard the Steve Nash story about how they hired someone to count the number of touches he had on his teammates during games and stuff like that, fist bumps, high fives, and the amount of touches, how it correlated to winning was crazy. So Tribute Tuesday, coaches are going to pick 2 players, and my managers are going to watch and see how many touches they get. And the great thing is we don't let them know who the 2 players are. So everybody now is getting those touches because they don't want to let the team down, because we're trying to get at least 5, kind of start it low and maybe build up as we go next year. But 5 touches on their teammates and stuff like that. Wellness Wednesday, I started this last year after I had Matt Toman and mental medal come in and do some work with our girls. And, he put it into a way that I never really thought of it before, but he talked about how the coach's mentality, they do this and they expect things to change. They don't practice the mental stuff. And Matt said, how do you expect to be good at something if you don't practice it? And he said most coaches will have the mindset, I don't want to waste my practice time on that. And that was me. That was the old school mentality. But I started thinking about it, and if you don't practice that and you just practice ball handling and shooting and passing, when it gets into the game and it's a tight game, or you don't know, you're getting super nervous or whatever it may be, the other things don't matter because you're not going to do them well. You're scared, you're not going to do them well. So having the mental part first, that allows you to do the other things. So I started sending out wellness checks on Google Forms with some questions on it every week. How are you doing? Are you feeling better? Because one of the sessions that he led was getting past mistakes and not dwelling on them. And so I would ask, are we getting better at moving past things and past mistakes and staying present and stuff like that? And then this is the one I'm kind of excited about. Thankful Thursday. I heard this on a podcast where before we even start practice, I'm going to have my players pull out their phone and they're going to text one person and just, could be anybody, and thank them or, show them appreciation. And you're basically just starting off practice and you feel good that you did something good. So that's Thankful Thursday. Fulfillment Friday, where we're trying to fill each other's bucket. And this is where we celebrate players. If they beat a high score in a certain drill, we'll celebrate them. We'll watch film, and I'll create a playlist of things that, don't show up in a stat sheet, and which are, kind of doing what we do for our culture and, things that represent that. And then we'll also we do a practice player of the day. And this is where the players come up, and I love it because it's usually my upperclassmen, and they pick the freshmen and sophomores. And it just, again, kind of lets them know, like, this is Roanoke-Benson basketball. We liked how your effort was today. Like, you need to bring that effort every day. And then Saturday, again, I stole this one from Coach Josh Williams, Show and Tell Saturday, where they're just going to bring something in that means something to them. And kind of like little kids, show and tell. Everybody like to show off their stuff.
Coach, I absolutely love those themes. I was taking notes as you were talking about them. Those are some fantastic ideas. You're in the gym, you're on the court, but that is what I would consider a non-basketball activity.
Yes.
That's just a human being having an interaction with another human being. And a lot of times, just in general, from what you were saying, we don't let others know that we care about them or that we're thankful for them. They might be our best friend on and off the court.
Yep.
But we don't let them know, hey, I really appreciate you today.
Yeah.
We don't do that enough. So another piece about you for your coaching applications, you'll be losing an all-state player here this spring to graduation. So the rest of the team has some big shoes to fill next year. So this off season is going to look different for you. What are you doing the same or differently going into June?
So at the end of every season, I have exit meetings with them, whether they're seniors or freshmen. I want to know, how they felt about the year and what they felt was really good, what, things that they think we could do better. Is there something for me that I could have done better? Because again, I want to be transparent. I told them I'd never lie to them, and I want them to be honest with me on things. But we have those exit meetings, and during those, we set up goals. And I talk about, this is what the team is going to need from you next year. So we set our goals, but we don't just stop there. We think of at least 3 ways that we can accomplish those goals. So it's not like, I want to start as the point guard for the varsity. Okay, that's great. That's a great goal, but how are you going to reach that goal? So, we come up with, little affirmations that that are going to help them get to the goal. So they have their goal, and they have, the expectations that I have. Then we go into open shooting, and I've got a couple different set programs that I'll run where players are going to follow just a basic shooting workout. And I don't like them to be in like groups. I try to do these with smaller groups and just stay longer, and they can come in and out because I want them to really focus on what they're doing. So I like smaller groups for that. Your open gyms, summer workouts. I work with the volleyball coach, and we run, because we're so small, everybody does everything. We run workouts on Monday and Wednesday mornings. And then it's usually from there we'll go into open gyms, but just those workouts. We're in the El Paso Summer League again. Are you guys coming back? Yep. So
yep, that is a big thing that we're doing.
Yep. And then we fill in at the ICC Summer League. Kerry Redeker has asked us to come multiple times, so we fill in if they need it. And then this year we're looking at the ISU team camp, which we went to last year, and we thought was really good. And we're going to go to Wesleyan, with Bree going there. We're gonna go down there and do that team camp. And then the last thing is sit down with my coaches and just kind of review the entire season. Like, what did we do well? What do we need to work on? What can we do differently? And those type of things.
I love everything that you're doing there in the off season, especially when it comes to asking the players, what do you think? I feel that takes them aback when you, as the coach, ask, what can I do better as a coach? What kind of things do you think we could improve on? Because now you're giving them ownership.
You're showing humility.
Yes.
You're willing to take what they're going to say. But I mean, hopefully if you're doing that, you really mean it, and you're going to work on changing those things. I mean, that's why I'm not the same coach as I was in year one, not even close. Even through year 10, I'm completely different. So
yeah, I think over time, see something and you adapt it or adjust it or completely throw it out. If you're doing the same thing year after year, and unless it's completely working, but then what kind of development are you doing as a coach and as a person? If you're asking players to change,
yes,
then you have to show that and model that as well.
I've had drills that I've asked them to run, trying something new. And after running it, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, we will never do that drill again. And you find something different. I mean, again, just showing humility, like, I'm going to make mistakes. It's okay. We're going to move on.
I've done the exact same thing. I've been in the middle of a drill. They'll be like, Coach, I just not getting it. And then they'll start to get it. And it's just not the picture that I had in my head of what it would look like. And I'll just stop it. It's like, all right, let's just move on. Let's go back to something that we know that we're good at and add another challenge. So in that year-over-year development, or just development in general, are there any coaching clinics or classes that you attend or you would suggest?
When I was younger, I did the big time clinics, like the Nike basketball clinics that they used to have. And I mean, it was cool. I saw all kinds of people, Bob Huggins, Bobby Knight, Jay Wright, and getting to see those guys and shake their hand and just listen to them talk is pretty cool. But, for me, I get a lot more from like small coaching roundtables. I just had breakfast with Josh Williams from Clinton and Mike Wolf from Prairie Central last Saturday, and just sitting down for a couple hours and sharing, things that we do and new ideas. I take more from things like that than I do from, going to actual clinics, because you get to cover the things that you have questions on. Whereas you go to the clinics and it's like, this person's talking about this person's talking about this. One thing that I think has really made me a better coach, when I went back and got my master's, I've never been a reader, and I had to read a couple different books. And from there, it's not just reading a book. Like, I have my highlighter out and I'm highlighting things, and then I'll go back and basically do a book study, because I want to share this information with my team, and such great ideas that I want to start implementing them. So, just reading is another thing. Listening to audiobooks, I do that all the time now. And the things that I've written down and I'm adding to what I do or how I coach, different things every single day.
That's where I find the most information as well, is just sitting down and talking with another coach or group of coaches. And Mike and Josh are also fairly local coaches, but through United Basketball, I've had the opportunity to talk to coaches from other states, and it really makes you know that you're not going through it alone. Earlier we talked about declining numbers, same thing that they're facing in Nebraska and Iowa and Indiana. There's a million ideas on how to do something, and I think that's what makes coaching great, is because not one person does it the same way. That's what makes it fun. So you mentioned this earlier, you have drills that you love to run. What is your all-time favorite drill?
The one that stuck with me from start to finish is going to be my shell drill, some form of shell. I'm a defensive guy. I tell my girls, if we never have to run an offensive set because we're going defense to offense and transition, that would make my day. But yeah, some sort of shell drill, whether it's just working on positions, communication, starting them off in a disadvantage so they have to scramble and recover. And then when I'm trying to get us like certain points across, we'll even throw in like cutthroat, where if one person doesn't talk, their team's out, rotate the next team in. So yeah, some sort of shell drill has got to be my all-time favorite.
I would agree with you there. I've ran like 6 variations of the same drill, just different starts, different disadvantages. We're transitioning into this. One thing I was thinking about during your practice plan discussion, and if you're laughing or you're not paying attention in practice, then we're going to run. And I don't know about you, but when we're laughing on the floor or on the sidelines like that, I just feel that the players are having joy in that moment, and I don't care about that. But there's got to be some kind of joy in that moment.
Yeah. Towards the end of last year, we started using the phrase "play fearless," and that kind of ties into this, because if you are so hard on them and like don't laugh, you should be focused, quit talking, all these things, like they're going to be fearful of you. And if they're fearful of me, I'm not going to get their best effort. Their mind's not going to be on the game. It's just going to continue to lead to more and more problems. So, if we're laughing, it's a good practice. And I'm usually trying to make them laugh. If I can see things are, we're struggling in something, I'll try to make something light of it to get their mind right and laughing again. I can get pretty animated. They like to laugh at me a lot.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take being laughed at or being the point of something. For us, one of my non-negotiables is negative self-talk. We will never talk negatively about ourselves, a teammate, an opponent. But yeah, if you want to say, yeah, hey, coach was making a fool of himself at practice, he came in wearing a tutu or whatever, it's like, yeah, like directed at me, that's fine. So if you're active on social media, where can fellow coaches find you?
On X, it's at Coach Davis 80. And then all the other things are run by my student managers. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and it's all under at RB Rockets GB.
Fantastic. Well, Coach, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Like I said, we're close. 15 minutes. We're local rivals at the school level, but that doesn't mean we can't sit down and share some ideas and help each other out. Love having conversations with coaches, and really, really enjoyed our conversation tonight and getting to hear a little bit behind the curtains of Roanoke-Benson girls basketball.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, you're welcome. And good luck to you this offseason and next season.
You as well.
Coaches, are you considering some personal development this offseason? Are you looking for a weekend getaway which revolves around hoops? If you're looking to grow as a coach, there's no better opportunity than the Hoosier Gym Coaches Clinic in Knightstown, Indiana. This year's clinic will be held September 11th and 12th in the famous Hoosier Gym. Speakers include Nick Camrano, Dan Davis, Marty Plum, among others. This is a clinic that you don't want to miss. Find the sign up on our X page.